Devin Haney, man. 1.3 million views, 1.35 million views that Devin Haney did on ESPN. That is just normal ESPN. When you combine ESPN Plus and ESPN, all the ESPN services, he did 2 million views, which is remarkably good for someone debuting on ESPN. Shakur Stevenson and Bud Crawford, those are continual people known on ESPN. Devin Haney debuting in his fight, his championship undisputed fight against George Kambosos, did over 2 million views. This is regular television, of course. So you have ESPN Plus, and which is the streaming service. Plus you have ESPN. Uh, so that's really, 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 really good, and it just shows that Devin Haney really is um, a star. When he was on the Zone, he was doing great numbers. He was getting paid good money. When he was on Showtime, he was doing great numbers as well. So Devin Haney has been now on three different networks, two streaming platforms, and he's been doing exceptionally well. You have ESPN Deportes, that's the other one. So it's ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes, and ESPN TV. So kudos to Devin Haney on that. Again, people saying Devin Haney don't sell, Devin Haney don't do this, Devin Haney is boring. Well, those numbers don't. I mean, Shakur versus Oscar Valdez did slightly higher numbers. Okay, and everybody knows Shakur Stevenson, and people don't necessarily say anything negative about Shakur. So just based on that, and then Terrence Crawford's fight against the non-pay-per-view fight against Kell Brook, Terrence Crawford actually did less numbers than Devin Haney did. You know, so Devin Haney actually did better numbers than Terrence Crawford versus Kell Brook. So I'm just saying that Devin Haney has started very well. Devin Haney has been growing from strength to strength. I was watching today also what you call it some flashback videos from ES News, Ellie Sackback, and also from Mayweather Channel, and so on. And they were showing how Floyd Mayweather Sr. was speaking about Devin Haney as becoming the next champion. You know, they were talking about him being the next Floyd Mayweather, meaning not next Floyd Mayweather, but the next superstar. Oh, Aki Sports TV also. Shout out to Aki Sports TV. I really like Aki Sports TV for many things. And Dante's Boxing Nation, they came up from a long way. Before Dante's Boxing Nation, it was Dante's Channel. You know, um, and these guys have been doing quite well. Aki Sports TV. I remember Aki just used to be boxing and whatever, and just talking boxing. And he kind of linked up with Dante and some other guys, and they would talk boxing together, and it was real boxing talk. So shout out to Aki. He's doing very well. Um, and I'm still a baby in this game in terms of my channel and stuff, but it's nice to see channels move from one strength to the next strength, and some guys be able to even eat off of the YouTube. I remember when Ness at the Boxing Voice was just a part-time thing, and how Ness came from that to now he's up in Las Vegas, and he's doing, he's running this boxing talk 24/7. He also has, tournaments and all of that. It's really great to see them move from strength to strength, so that's a good thing. I myself, I know you have to stick with it in the game to get where you have to go. You have to pay your dues. So I understand the whole process, and I'm cool with it. Um, but back to what I was saying. The point I'm making is that Devin Haney, when I look at Aki Sports TV, or when I looked at, flashbacks from Ellie Seckback, with Ellie Seckback being in this game a very long time. When I look at, uh, the Mayweather Boxing Channel, when they were showing those prophetic um, conversations by Mayweather Senior, when Floyd Mayweather Junior, people in the boxing gym different boxing gyms talking about Devin Haney and what they knew about him. This was a 16-year-old kid, boxing pros, top 10 pros, champions, and so on. He was doing all of that in the gym at 16. Senior had prophesied that Haney would become world champion at 18. He became champion at 20, so he was about 2 years off. But he became undisputed champion 3 years later at 23. So I mean, that's just incredible. The strides that Devin Haney has made, and of course, a lot of people avoid Devin Haney in the boxing circuits. He been trying to get shots at many top 10 fighters. We're talking about from Fortuna all the way up to Tank. This guy been calling out everybody, wanting to smoke with everybody. He meant what he said too. Lomachenko, Tank, Ryan, Fortuna, Campbell. He was supposed to face Campbell actually in England. Remember when he went across to the UK and he was actually sparring some guys over there, and he was having a little media conference. I think Luke Campbell was facing off with somebody. I can't remember who he was. And Devin Haney was supposed to actually face Luke Campbell, and instead Lomachenko jumped the boat and faced Campbell instead. He was Devin Haney was supposed to face Campbell. He was supposed to face Linares before Linares faced him. He was supposed to face Jojo Diaz, and then Jojo Diaz didn't seem like he wanted that work. It was supposed to be Ryan, then it was supposed to be Jojo Diaz who got into position because Ryan turned it down. And ultimately, in the end, he wanted a shot. After Lomachenko didn't give him the shot, he went after Tio. Tio didn't give him the shot. Tio lost, and eventually he got the shot with Kambosos. After Kambosos was actually looking for some other options. Kambosos wanted to face Loma instead of Devin, and Loma couldn't make it, so Devin ended up landing it, and he got his shot, and he made it count. You know what I'm saying? He made it count. So I'm looking forward to seeing more that Devin Haney does in the game. But I just wanted to give you guys some positive feedback on the numbers that he did, these are not bad numbers whatsoever. And if we got that kind of numbers, and his peak viewership I think was 1.35 million views, which is not bad. That's not slouchy at all for ESPN. And when you combine it with ESPN and ESPN Deportes, ESPN Plus, 2 million views. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So if they're saying he's boring, it's weird. It's weird hearing people say these strange things because, if I'm not mistaken, Dimitri Bivol out-jabbed Canelo Alvarez. The thing that was working for Dimitri was mostly his jab. He's kind of punching Canelo here and there. He was throwing other shots, but it was the jab that was working. But I never heard them say, and I never heard anybody say that Dimitri Bivol was boring. You dig what I'm saying? It's almost an identical fight, and it went the distance, just like with Haney versus Kambosos. And Canelo was pretty much neutralized by Bivol, and yet all they say is, well, Bivol was, he was doing basic things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, he was doing basic things, but it was working. You know what I mean? And so it is what it is. But I just look at the hypocrisy in boxing, how people will say this guy's boring, but Bivol wasn't boring. And the only difference between Bivol and Devin Haney is complexion, skin. Yeah. Now remember, Bivol came over here. He came over to the United States and beat Canelo. Devin Haney went all the way across to Australia and beat Kambosos. Same story. Same story, same style. Haney had a little bit more flash and pizzazz to his style, but nonetheless, same story, same style. And Devin Haney moved forward more than Bivol. He was on the front foot more than Bivol. And yet, Devin Haney was boring. So we know what that means. We know what that means. We all know what that means. That means, it was a one-sided fight. And this guy dominated. That's what happened. He dominated his opponent. His opponent couldn't do nothing. Just like how Bivol dominated Canelo, and Canelo couldn't do nothing. You understand what I'm saying? Even though I think Canelo did more than Kambosos did. I think Haney shackled down Kambosos more than Bivol shackled down Canelo. But nonetheless, that's what it is. They said Bevo was too big for Canelo. I guess Haney was too big for Cambosis, even though they're in the same weight class. How you gonna be in the same weight class, but you too big for another guy? I'm just saying, if you can make weight and be in the weight class, there's no excuses. It's not like big or small. Haney was much bigger than Cambosis. Cambosis never used that as an excuse. So I mean, people will make excuses for the people they want to win, the people they like. When we become more neutral about things, when we get, and the facts never support these people who say Haney's boring. Well, where are the facts to support that? If he's boring, it should have been a bust on ESPN. He shouldn't have had no views for it, right? People should have, it should have. People should have tuned in and tuned out and say, I don't need to see that, right? It didn't happen. So ultimately, in the end, people who call Devin Haney boring, whether you say you're a casual fan or what's the interesting thing? I've talked to one or two casuals, and I've listened to people who had one or two casuals with them while they were watching the fight. The casuals picked it up. The casuals was like, man, this guy's just schooling this other guy. They actually understood how dominant Devin Haney was in that fight, and they were actually quite amused by it. So, to say that casuals thought that Devin Haney was boring, no, that's your agenda. You're trying to say that because you was either salty, sour, that this dude can't be beat, and Cambosis couldn't get to him, and Cambosis couldn't beat him down. It's the salty ones. It's the salty ones who are saying that. Because, and people talk about a masterful performance all the time. It wasn't a performance like Tank. Of course not. Tank's getting knockouts. But to say that it's a performance that was boring, don't come with that bullshit. Okay? So, that's what I got for you guys. I'm going to catch you guys later. What you need in the building, and now out. Peace. Oh, one more thing. Before I get out of here, you can donate to my channel via the link that I'm going to put. Not the link, sorry. You can donate to my channel via PayPal. Okay? And I'm going to put the PayPal in the discussion part, the comment section below. Alright? Deuces.